Hi, everyone. I'm Mayor Sandra Berry, and we're in Village Hall with Congressman Dan Lipinski. Congressman, it's wonderful that you took time at this crazy time of year to come and uh, share your thoughts with our residents. How's everything going?
Very good, very good.
Good.
It's always good to be with you. We're right here at Village Hall. We're just on the other side of the library is my office here
Yeah.
in Oak Lawn.
So you're in the 5210 building, and that's the building just east of the library, correct?
just east of the library. So anytime anyone wants to come in there, uh, drop by. They have an issue that they want to discuss. Have something, Social Security, Medicare, Veterans Benefit, any federal issue. Come on by there, and we'll take
Yeah.
care of you.
And your staff is wonderful.
Yes, I've
Absolutely wonderful.
professional staff been around a long time, and they know how to
Yes.
know how to
Yes.
solve problems and help people out.
They do, they do. And what hours are they open? Is pretty much
Generally, Monday through Friday from 9 to 5.
okay? Do they need an appointment before stopping
Don't
by?
They don't need an appointment. There may be, if there's a specific issue though, you might want to call beforehand because
Yeah.
some of my staff move around who deal with specific
it.
issues. So you may want to call beforehand to know when the person who handles that issue, say if it's
Yeah.
a Social Security issue, you want to come on the day that
Yeah.
that staff member is going to be there.
Yeah. So to maximize your time, call ahead, talk about what your issue is, and you'll have the right person on your team available when needed. So that's
Yes.
wonderful. That's wonderful. And how are you splitting your time between Washington and Oak Lawn and your district?
Well, we usually are in session 3 out of 4 weeks of any month. So I'm always here, though. Even a week that we're in session, we'll be in maybe Monday through Thursday or Tuesday through Friday. So I will be here. As soon as the last vote's cast, I'm running off to the airport in Washington to come home, come back to the district, and then we'll be here until I have to leave for the first vote of the following week. So.
Well, I want to thank you for always being there for our residents. You know, you've attended, I can't remember the last time you missed any of our veterans events, our Memorial Day services, our Veterans Day services, and even our Patriot Day events. You're very often there, and you always find time for Oak Lawn. In the past year, the congressman's been in Oak Lawn. You had a couple different things going on in Oak Lawn. What?
Had a town hall meeting out here. I had a senior fair and a veterans fair. And,
So what goes on at the town hall meeting?
well, town hall meeting is just an opportunity for anyone who has questions, comments to come out and ask those to me. It's just basically an open forum.
Good.
People have a question, they have the opportunity to ask me those questions or make the comments. And my staff is always there too.
Yeah.
If anyone needs help with
And
any particular issue.
The senior fair and veterans fair, what goes on at those?
At the senior fair, we bring out government agencies who help out seniors. We also bring out some businesses who have services to offer to seniors. So
That's wonderful.
again, it's to help seniors with any issues that they may have, things that may be helpful to them. And I show up at all the senior fairs, the veterans fair. It's a similar thing, but it's for veterans. We make sure
Yeah.
that the veteran service organizations are there. Agencies that help veterans are all there to help out the veterans.
It's great. And our veterans sure could use the support. So many are coming back and having challenges getting jobs and even understanding what the resources are that are available to them. So I
Yeah.
want to thank you for always being there for our community, our seniors, and our veterans.
And the Johnson Phelps VFW over here, it's a great
Yeah.
great group of people over there, and so I still have I always talk about I have my Johnson Phelps mug that I drink my tea out of every morning. So they're great. That's where we have our senior fairs and our veterans
Yeah,
fair.
yeah. They're a great resource right in the center of town, and Commander Johnson, I know will be thrilled to hear you give them a plug. They're always looking for new members and looking for ways to get involved in the community. So if your organization is looking for some input from veterans. If have a teacher and you need veterans to talk to your school kids, the VFW is always eager to get out in the community and talk about veterans. Let's go back to Washington. Let's leave Oak Lawn. Let's go to Washington. What a crazy year in Washington. Oh my goodness, a lot's been going on. Probably the thing that's going to impact every single person in Oak Lawn is the new tax bill. It kind of went through pretty quickly, and not all of us really understand what it means. And I have a couple concerns about it, which I'll ask you, but what are your thoughts on that tax bill?
Well, I think everyone agreed that we needed to have tax reform. But we need to do it in a right way, the way that really prioritize the middle class. We want to help small businesses because they are the ones who create
Right.
2/3 of the jobs. Also, I thought it was important that we should have done something to fix infrastructure, make that part of the tax bill, and also a great concern with our $20 trillion federal debt that we weren't adding more to the debt. So those were sort of the principles that I had laid out for a tax reform bill, and unfortunately, this bill failed on pretty much all of those, and it was very disappointing. The bill was really rushed through at the at the end of the year. I don't think a lot of people had the
Right.
opportunity to really look at what was in there.
Or read it, yeah.
Yeah, and so
Yeah.
I think it's going to it cut corporate tax rates significantly. So it really wasn't a reform. It was more of cutting corporate rates. More than 2/3 of the benefits went to corporations. Now everyone will see a tax cut, except one important issue locally. If you itemize deductions, because the state and local tax deductions, so property taxes, income taxes for the state of Illinois, you used to be able to deduct all of that from your federal taxes. So if you do itemize and you have in the past deducted those, there's now a $10,000 cap on that, which
And total deductions?
on no just
Or
for
just real estate,
for
property
real
tax?
property tax and state income tax
Okay.
together. There's a cap on that, so that's going to hurt many people in our area. So who won't actually get to see a tax cut. But the thing is, this bill is costing $1.5 trillion over 10 years. It also makes the corporate tax rates permanent, but the individual tax cuts for all individuals, those expire. So there are a lot of problems with this bill. So I fought against this bill, voted against this bill, but unfortunately it passed, and we're now we're in 2018, and it's in effect, and
Yeah.
so we're going to be seeing what impact that it has.
Yeah, I'm very concerned how it's going to impact our property values in Oak Lawn. For example, if someone's coming in just starting out and they don't have a lot to put down, they're not going to benefit like my generation did. New family from that tax break. I don't know how that's going to impact. Will that keep property values down? I don't know. But
Well, I've actually asked some realtors, and they said they think that in some areas it's going to depress property values a little bit in the near future, and so that's not good
what
for any of us.
areas do they feel those are? Do they know?
Well,
Is it like New York, obviously California, where average little shack is $800,000 or something, but
Well,
yeah.
obviously, in places like that, in places that have
Yeah.
higher home values, are going to
Yeah.
be hurt more.
Yeah, and it's unfortunate. You talk about how important it is to work with everyone across the aisle. Can you tell me about the Problem Solvers Caucus that you're involved with? What is that, and why should residents care?
Well, I think most Americans are really sick and tired of all the bickering in Washington.
Yes.
And tired of nothing getting done. We basically have formed two tribes: the Democratic Party, the Republican Party. People don't talk to each other, so we're not getting anything accomplished. That's where the Problem Solvers Caucus is working to change how Washington is working. It's a group of 24 Democratic House members, 24 Republican House members, and we work on sitting down, negotiating, coming up with bipartisan compromises on legislation that we can propose. This summer, we put out a plan, and we now have legislation to help to reduce costs in the Affordable Care Act.
It's huge. It's
It
huge.
would reduce costs, probably premiums 25 to 30%.
How does? Yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry. I don't mean to.
Well, it does two important things. One, it guarantees the cost sharing reduction payments, which President Trump had cut off this year, which raised premiums about 20% for 2018 in the Affordable Care Act. It also puts in a reinsurance program. Now, a reinsurance program, the Congressional Budget Office says will save about 10%, cut about 10% from premiums. So we could see a 30% reduction in premiums in the Affordable Care Act if we pass this legislation. I'm hopeful that we may have an opportunity to do that coming up soon. But that's something that we came together on a bipartisan basis. Healthcare, unfortunately, has become so partisan and so political. We need to do more to help reduce everyone's healthcare
It's
costs.
a desperate need with our families and our small businesses. And, you know, you look at what even a basic plan covers and what it costs. And it's just something that so few people can afford. The deductibles are so high, people are avoiding care. It's a big problem in Oak Lawn, and people talk to me about that all the time. So thank you very much for your leadership. Anything to curtail those costs, you know, we appreciate. Anything that you're working on for job growth? Does this caucus have an interest in that, or what are there other?
Well, right now we have we're working on, we're putting out soon a proposal for an infrastructure bill.
Yes.
And that's something that we desperately
Yes.
need.
Yes, we
Our
do.
nation needs it, but locally we really need it. I sat on the House Transportation and Infrastructure Committee, and I was excited when President Trump talked about, when he, on election nights, the one issue he talked about, $1 trillion infrastructure bill. He talked about it again at the beginning of the year. He talked about it in the City of Union address, but nothing has yet been done. So I am hopeful that finally we are going to start working on that. We need work on all of our infrastructure in the country. We're talking transportation, but also talking water, sewer infrastructure. There's a real
Yes.
need.
So can I talk about Oak Lawn for a minute? Oak Lawn was built in the 50s, 60s, and 70s primarily, and the average lifespan of most of the infrastructure put in is 50 years or less. And all of that is beginning to, you know, we're feeling the effects of the need to, you know, upgrade everything. And as much as we can, we're trying to get ahead of it, but it's almost impossible to. Without some bigger kind of
Yeah,
strategy.
it's a common problem because a lot of our country, especially suburban areas, were built after World War II.
Yeah.
And now the infrastructure that was put in at the time
Yes.
really, some of it's crumbling, but all of it really needs some work.
It doesn't quite meet the needs of
Yeah.
what's going on. Like if you look at our water system, you know, as you're aware, we're doing this very large water system upgrade that will serve the needs of 325 people. But when that water went in, when that water main was originally built, there was no development in any of these areas, and we've been making it work, and it's challenging when you think of, okay, if we're doing it, let's meet the needs of the next 50 years, you know, what that's going to be. But we have a lot of ideas for what we could do with infrastructure money in Oak Lawn. We could.
Yeah, there's a lot of needs, and that's, you know, something that, a reason why I think the president had talked about doing an infrastructure bill. We need to finally get that done. And obviously, transportation is also a big issue. The Chicagoland area is the worst, or at least one of the worst, oftentimes said to be the worst in terms of congestion. We need to do
Yes.
more, and not just building more roads. That's part of it. Taking care of what we have, also helping public transportation, and I know that that's critical here. You have Patriot Station
Yes.
in Oak Lawn. I was able a few years ago to get weekend service added
Yes.
onto
Yes.
Metro Southwest service line.
Can you get us more weekend service?
We're always working on
I know.
more. Unfortunately, right now,
I
Metro
know.
is
They're cutting everyone. I know.
is taking cuts, but this is something, if we can step forward
Yes.
and give more support
Yes.
for public transportation, that not only helps those who
Right.
take the train, but it gets more people off of the roads. And
Right.
so that's something that is really desperately needed.
But it grows our community. It adds vibrance. Young families seek it out because they don't want to spend an hour and a half each way from New Lenox, working downtown. And it's, yeah, more, please.
I'm working on
I
it.
know, and we're in the planning stage with the tollway system for a very large change in 294. They're upgrading from 95th Street, as you know, to Balmoral, and so we're excited that can fix a lot of our woes too for our commuters, and just get people moving there faster. That's what it's about, and you know. Anything else interesting in Washington going on? Any other things I haven't mentioned?
Well, we as we're starting the new year, the question is what do we do next? What do we work on next? So my hope certainly is an infrastructure bill.
Yeah,
There's a lot of work that still needs to be done.
yeah.
One thing that I'm looking forward to this spring, there's a bill that I got passed a few years ago that requires the federal government to come out with a manufacturing strategy, to develop a manufacturing strategy for the first time since Alexander Hamilton, who's now made famous by the musical. For the first time since Alexander Hamilton, we will have a plan to promote American manufacturing, and that's thanks to legislation I had passed a few years ago. And the first one is due this spring, so I'm looking forward to see what this plan includes. I think it'd be very helpful. These manufacturing jobs, and we're not just talking, what we think of as sort of old manufacturing. We're talking also new
Correct.
manufacturing and new technology, and
Yeah.
we need to do more of that here. Those are great jobs and really help.
They are.
They're multiplier jobs. They create other jobs in the communities.
Those are the kind of jobs that built America.
That's right.
Those
That's what built the middle class. The
Yes.
middle class needs more help. With stagnant wages we've seen. So I'm looking forward to that. And let's see what happens with
Yeah.
new trade agreements, the renegotiation of NAFTA. That could also be helpful depending on how that's done. So these trade deals have really hurt our area. Certainly hurt
Yeah.
my district, and we need to do better. We need to grow good middle class American jobs.
I couldn't agree more. Couldn't agree more. Now, speaking of jobs and our infrastructure, I want to talk about our first responders a little bit. You've been very, very successful in championing. Well, I don't know how the process works, but we've received two really wonderful grants recently that we would not have had without having such a strong advocate for our first responders in Washington, D.C. One of them was for, I believe, $144,000, and that is to upgrade the breathing apparatus. I believe our firefighters,
Yes.
when they go into a fire, they wear kind of a self-contained environment, and if those are outdated and not working properly, it really impairs their ability to rescue you and to be available. So, it's a little thing you think about, but it's a big deal to our residents and a big deal to us, and especially our firefighters who it helps keep safe. Another grant is the SAFER grant, and that one gosh, 1.32 million, something like that. It's just a wonderful opportunity to, the village potentially could hire new firefighters. It's a complicated issue, but, you're always there for our first responders, and,
Well, for all that they do for us, I think back on 9/11 is
Yeah.
when Americans were really again made aware of what all of our first responders do,
Yeah.
and they are rushing into the danger, not running away. They're
Right.
there to help
Right.
in places that no
Right.
one else is going to go. So anything I could do to help out, to provide the
Yeah.
tools, the equipment that are needed, I'm very happy to do, and I
Yeah.
just thank God that we have men and women who are willing to do that,
Yeah.
put
And
their own lives on the line
I couldn't
for
agree
others.
more. Couldn't agree more. And those grants are really hard to come by in this economy. So for Oaklawn to have such success, it's a big deal to us. I really appreciate that. Um, let's see what else is going on around Oaklawn here. I don't know. I might be at the end of my ideas to talk about. Congressman, anything else?
Well, I just think that I want people to know my office is always open to them, or if they want to contact me, they
Yeah.
have not just if they need help, if they have an opinion
Right.
on something, please reach out to my office.
So do you really look at those if someone, writes a letter or someone calls?
Yes, I do. It's very important to me. That's why I'm here.
Uh-huh.
If I'm not voting in Washington, I'm here. I'm out in the community. I'm listening to people because it's important to me. I think
Yeah.
I don't. When I go out to Washington, I go there to represent my constituents
Yeah.
and to serve my constituents. I'm
Right.
not going to have someone else tell me how I'm supposed to be voting. Besides my constituents, they're the people who elect me.
Yeah.
That's
And you're one of those that doesn't really vote with that block all the time. When you talk about we have two tribes, the Democrats and Republicans, you're one that doesn't really hesitate if it's something you feel is in the interest of your constituents to not go that way.
well, I think it's critically important that as a representative of the residents of the third district that I listen and I study the issues. I read the bills.
Yeah.
I want to know how they're going to impact my constituents and try to do what's best for my constituents and for the country. And I take that very seriously. Honestly, it's more work for me. It's more work for my staff. But that's the right way
It is.
to represent my people. And you understand that.
Absolutely.
I also know it's important for me to work with mayors, to work with you, to work with other mayors in my district, work with other representatives in my district, because you know what the community needs, and you're out there listening to your residents, and
Yes.
you know what the local needs are, and so you can bring those to me also, and so I think that's a very important part of my job.
Yeah. There's a lot of fear about government in the community. There's a lot of mistrust. There's a lot of people who just don't know what to think. So that's really wonderful to have, to know that if someone writes you a letter, that you'll read it. Can you tell me an issue that you got the most letters and emails about? Was there one that,
Well, recently, net neutrality was
Ah.
a very, very big issue, and
now what is that? Can you explain that? Because
well,
that's,
there was a policy that was put in place a couple years ago that said the internet service providers, so your Comcast,
Yeah.
AT&T, wherever you get your internet service for, they could not charge. Say you have a website, your company has a website, they could not charge anyone any more than somebody else for their content to be available.
okay.
So that means that if you're an individual writing a blog, you're in your house, you're
Right.
writing a blog, you're putting your ideas
Right.
out there, they can't say, well, we're not interested
Right.
in your ideas. We don't think you should get on. So we're going to charge you more. If you want to have, if you want to be able to have your website accessible
Yeah.
to the, to everyone who has access to the internet through our service, we're going to charge you more than we charge, say, Amazon or someone else, a newspaper. And so that really goes against the idea that we all have about the internet really being a place where you get all kinds of opinions and everyone has equal ability to put their ideas out.
Yes, they do.
Whoever wants, for better or for worse. And we know there's, it's not all good what's out there, but the idea
it's
is
free speech.
You shouldn't, a company, internet service provider shouldn't decide by charging, some people more than others, shouldn't be able to decide what ideas get put out there, what websites have access. So unfortunately, this was something that was a policy put in place a few years ago by the Federal Communication Commission. It was just overturned in December. So we'll see what's going to happen. We're not sure what's going to happen. The service providers are saying that they're not going to use this in order to discriminate against what content that we can see. But I think we were better off to have that policy in place so that we knew that was going to be the situation.
Yeah, it's kind of frightening if you think, okay, how do most people get their news now? It's online, and if you think that all of that can be controlled tightly, it's a slippery slope.
And so that was an issue that there was a tremendous amount of. I've got so many emails coming in on that issue. Probably more than any issue that I've seen, even with the big tax bill that was going through. I was hearing more on net neutrality than it was on the tax bill. But part of that was the tax bill was pushed through, as we talked about, so quickly, and people really didn't know. It was very complicated. People weren't sure what was in the tax bill. But net neutrality issue is one that I really heard from my constituents.
It's not what I would have thought.
I had people coming up to me at Christmas parties and saying, I want to make sure that you are supporting net neutrality, which I assured them that I am. So now the next step is going to be, Congress hopefully stepping in and saying and requiring that net neutrality.
Yeah, well, hopefully that'll happen. Give your regards, Congressman, to my regards to your lovely wife and family, and I saw her recently, and it was very nice to see her. Anything going on in the next few months locally? I think we're winding this down and starting to free associate.
Well, I just think that as we move ahead, winter is always a tough time for everybody. I'm hopeful that in Washington that I hope that we see some change, and there's been talk about moving to really work on some more bipartisan legislation.
People have a hunger for it. No one's,
in doing an infrastructure bill. I'm hopeful that happens. I'm always, I've always worked that way in my time in Congress. I've always tried to bring people together to try to solve problems. I'm an engineer, and engineering's problem solving. And that's what I really believe in. You bring people together, you come up with solutions. That's how we get things done. Everyone knows in their own families, in business, you have to work with people. You have to compromise. Exactly. It's a give and take, and you can't just keep, as we often do in Washington, kicking the can down the road and not solving people's problems. That's why there's such a frustration, I think, in this country right now. They don't see government working in Washington. We need to change that for the good of our country.
Yes, we do. So, very good. Anything else you want to say, Congressman?
Well, thank you for the work that you do here in Oak Lawn.
We're so lucky in Oak Lawn to have such a wonderful community, and it's just a privilege, just a joy and a privilege.
And it's the heart of right here in the heart of my district. So
Now, how big is your district?
812,000 people.
Holy cow.
And
Holy cow.
besides the city of Chicago, Oak Lawn is the largest municipality in my district.
Wow. How much of your district is Chicago? Not a whole lot.
It's about
The southwest side.
about
right?
a quarter to a third of my district is in the city of Chicago, and the rest is
Wow.
out in the is in the suburban areas.
Wow, very good. Very good. Well, it's always a pleasure having you out in Oak Lawn, sir. Come by anytime.
Thank you.
And thanks again for all you do. And,
Thank you.
Always nice to see you.
Good to see you.
Thank you.